All right, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. This is a webinar for the teacher grant webinar. My name is Amir Woods, and I'm a Student Success and Community Engagement Specialist for the College of Education. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. This session will be recorded once again and uploaded on our YouTube channel. After we conclude the webinar, there will be a time for questions with our financial aid team. Please save your questions until then. Um, we did have a few questions that were in the registration page, so we will address those. But if you have questions that are not that you have during the time of this, please go ahead and use the chat feature at the bottom of the menu. We are joined today by my colleagues in the Office of Financial Aid. We have Ana Segura, who is a federal grants counselor, and Alexis Rodriguez, who's a student personnel technician in loans. Thank you once again, and we hope the information today is helpful for you guys. Thank you, and I'm going to hand it off to you, Ana.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Segura. Me and my colleague Alexis are here with you today. Both Alexis and I will be going over, I specifically the Teach Grant, Alexis the Golden State Teach Grant. As we get and approach each subject, we'll go over the information necessary. Before we begin, I did want to start off by saying, while this is a teacher grant webinar, we understand that there are so many changes going on right now with the 24-25 FAFSA, the way that things are being processed, awarding and whatnot. If you have any questions regarding general questions about your financial aid, about state university grant, things like that, we do ask that you refer those questions to the financial aid office. Today is specifically for any teach grant questions and the Golden State Teach Grant as well. Okay. Like I said, if you guys have any other general questions that are not related to the Teach Grant or Golden State Teach Grant, we do request that you go ahead and reach out to our financial aid office. Towards the end of this PowerPoint, we will be sharing that information with you, the 3 different ways to contact us, so that we can go ahead and help and assist in any other way that we can. That being said, as Amir also said previously, we are holding some time towards the end for questions that you guys may have. We do have commonly asked questions regarding the Teach Grant and the Golden State Teach Grant on the PowerPoint as well. Again, if your questions are not covered for some reason, please feel free to enter them in the chat and we will get to them. Again, my name is Ana Segura. I'm the Federal Pell Grant Counselor here at Cal State Fullerton. I'm also in charge of the Teach Grant program. So let's go ahead and begin. So what we will be doing today is we'll go over the Teach Grant information. We'll understand the eligibility, the requirements, and the process. We will also learn about the Golden State Teach Grant. While we do not specialize, neither I or Alexis in the Golden State Teach Grant, we are part of the federal team. We still know the basic information for the Golden State Teach Grant. If for some reason you guys may have a question or anything like that regarding the Golden State Teach Grant that we may not be able to answer, we will take your name down, get that question for you so we can get it answered to you in the appropriate time. And then, of course, we'll go over some commonly asked questions as well. What is the Teach Grant? Sorry, let me hide the float. Okay, perfect. What is the Teach Grant? So the Teach Grant is a federal grant that provides funding to students who agree to teach for 4 years at an elementary school, secondary school, or educational service agency. It allows for students to serve, for teachers to serve students from low-income families, along with meeting other requirements that we will go over as well. How is the Teach Grant different than the rest of the grants? This is very important. As you guys know, grants normally are not something that you pay back. This is a different grant. And the reason it's different is because the Teach Grant, it requires students to agree and complete a teaching service obligation as a condition for receiving this grant. That means you are coming into this, applying for the Teach Grant, receiving the Teach Grant, knowing that it comes with an obligation to serve students in low-income schools as a high-need teacher, okay? If you do not complete the service obligation, the teach grant will be converted to a loan that must be paid back with interest. So we will go over that in more detail as well, but this is something that we really want to emphasize on. So if you guys hear us repeatedly saying it could turn into a loan, it could turn into a loan if you do not serve your obligation, we've had instances where, students may not be aware, or they only were told once, or, there's just a lot of information out there, and we want to make sure that we are making an emphasis on this specifically. That's why it's very important that you for sure know that I do want to become a teacher. So this teach grant will be for me because I'm going to go ahead and serve that obligation. What is the teach grant eligibility? To be eligible for the teach grant, you must meet the following requirements. You must meet the basic eligibility requirements for the FAFSA application. So that also means, being in good standing as far as you're not in overpayment, you're not in default with loans, anything like that. You must also complete the FAFSA application form, be enrolled at a school that participates in the TEACH program. We do. Be enrolled in a TEACH grant eligible program. We have a very long list of TEACH eligible grant programs. We do hold that list at the Office of Financial Aid. It is not something that is publicized or shared, but know that if you are in a teach grant eligible program, you are part of a group in our system that will go ahead and email you to your school email saying, hey, you're in a teach grant eligible program. There is a teach grant available to you if you would like to apply for it. Those emails have not gone out. They're currently finishing up and making any changes to the forms right now before processing those. But when in doubt, you can always reach out to your financial aid office, and we can go ahead and provide further details about the teach grant eligible programs. You must meet certain academic achievement requirements. Normally, this would be within a GPA of 3.25. If you're like, oh no, I don't meet that GPA, maybe my last semester wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but you have an ACT, GRE, any of those academic achievement testing scores, and have scored within the 75 percentile on one or more of those college admissions tests, we can go ahead and replace that, and that will fulfill the GPA requirement instead of having to do the 3 point, instead of trying to meet the 3.25 GPA requirement. You must also complete a teach grant counseling. This pretty much explains the terms and conditions of you receiving the teach grant. So it just gives more information as far as the teach grant obligation, what you need to do. It gives you counseling regarding what happens if you don't complete the obligation, how it will become a loan, and it will provide some loan counseling at that time as well. The other thing that you must complete is the teach grant agreement to serve or to repay. And this is where you're pretty much promising the U.S. Department of Education, I know what I'm getting myself into. I understand that this teach grant can convert into a loan if I do not serve my obligation. Both the teach grant counseling and the teach grant agreement can be completed at studentaid.gov. And again, we'll go into more detail regarding that as well. And who is eligible? There also current former teacher are eligible for this grant. However, there's certain requirements that are only available for students in the master's program, and that would be considered current or former teachers or retirees. So if you're sitting here and you're like, okay, I'm entering a teach eligible program, it is a master's, but I don't fit that 3.25 GPA, and I do not meet that 75 percentile for the admissions testing, there is another way that you can go ahead and see if you're eligible to pretty much replace the academic portion of the requirement. And this is by completing a form. We will email you this form if we see that you are not eligible for the GPA or the admissions testing score. And we'll let you know, hey, we noticed that you're in a master's program. Are you a current former teacher or retiree? At that point, we will move forward with your application, and I will go ahead and send you that application. It's very simple. It's just a document that you need to get signed wherever you're employed. Or if wherever you were employed as a teacher, if you're a retiree, there's a different section for that as well. So like I said, this only replaces the academic portion for those students who are in a master's program and who are current, former teacher, or retiree. You still need to meet the rest of the requirements. So you still must maintain SAP, complete the FAFSA application, be in a master's eligible teach program, and complete the counseling as well as the agreement to serve. Running out of my breath here. I apologize. So what are some Teach Grant eligible programs? Teach Grant eligible programs are curriculums of study that are designed to prepare students to teach in a high need field that either leads to a bachelor's, master's degree, or post-baccalaureate program. Schools that participate in the Teach Grant program determine what programs are Teach Grant eligible. A program that is Teach Grant eligible at one school may not be a Teach Grant eligible program at another school. So between our partnership with the College of Education and the Financial Aid Office, we do come up with those programs together to determine which ones are Teach Grant eligible. In the past, I have had students who apply for the Teach Grant and their program may not be on there. As a double measure, I always reach out to the College of Education just to confirm. If at that point you're not part of the Teach Grant eligible program, I will inform you just so that you're not in limbo, like, did I get it? Did I not? What's going on? What is considered a high need field? So high need fields are mathematics. I was going to say mathematician, but mathematics, science, including but not limited to computer science, a foreign language, bilingual education, English language acquisition, reading specialist, special education, and any other field that has been identified as a high need in the annual teacher shortage area nationwide listing. We've provided screenshots of what that website looks like on the right-hand side, just in case you're not sure if you're viewing the correct or you're in the correct website. And I don't think I said this previously, but all of the links are included in the PowerPoint. So you can always go ahead and access these links through the PowerPoint slide. And then if you plan on teaching in a high need field that is included in the nationwide list, the field must be listed for each state. So just because a high need field may not be the same with a high need field in California may not be the same for Texas. So you guys want to make sure that before you guys decide, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to teach my service, my obligation and service need. I'm going to go teach in, I don't know, Wyoming. You want to make sure that that's considered a high need field there. If for some reason your high need field maybe at one point was a high need field in that state and then they remove it, that's okay. As long as at the time you signed your agreement to serve and you receive your Teach Grant within that time frame, as long as it was designated as a high field need at the time, that's fine. Or when you begin teaching, as long as it's considered a high need field at the time you sign your agreement to serve and when you start your teaching, that's fine. Sometimes they do remove high need fields depending on the state. So it's just kind of something to keep on the back of your mind to kind of be on the lookout for. So no need to worry as like, oh no, they're not going to count that towards my serving obligation just because it's not on there anymore. And again, at this link, you could go and see and kind of take a look at what are high need fields for what state. Institutions that serve low-income students. This is one of our biggest questions that we get. Well, how do I know that the school I'm going to get hired at is considered, a school or an institution that serves low-income students? There is a website for that through the studentaid.gov. Again, we've also linked it here. But elementary and secondary schools, public and private, and educational service agencies, ESA, that serve low-income students are listed in the annual Teach Cancellation Low Income TCLI directory. Again, we've added a PowerPoint, a screenshot of what that website looks like, just in case you're not sure if you're on the correct one. In addition, there are elementary and secondary schools that are operated by the U.S. Department of Interior's Bureau of Indian Education. They also qualify for this as well. They're also found on here on the same directory. However, some may not be listed. But for the most part, if you are operating in an Indian reservation, they are contracted with the Teacher Cancellation Low Income Directory, and they can go ahead and be served, or your obligation could be served as well there. What are the teach grant amounts and what are the limits? So, the Teach Grant program provides grants of up to $3,772 a year to students who are completing or plan to complete coursework needed to begin a career in teaching. Okay. At one point, students who received the Teach Grant prior to October 1st, 2020 were eligible for up to $4,000 per year. However, due to Budget Control Act of 2011, known as the Sequester Law, there are required reduction in the Teach Grant amount. So this is why we award $3,772 at this time. They have not reduced it since 2020. And thank God they didn't reduce it for the 24-25 academic year. So as of right now, this is what it looks like. We do award the Teach Grant based on your enrollment. That being said, if for some reason in the fall you're full-time, then you'll get that per semester amount. And then maybe you drop to half-time in the spring, then you'll get the $943 per semester. Like everything has to have a limit. There is a Teach Grant aggregate limits. So as some of you may know or have heard, Pell Grant comes with a 600% limit. Well, the Teach Grant also has a limit. So the max amount annually that we can award is that $4,000. In our case, it's in nationwide, the case is $3,772. Again, due to the Budget Control Act. The eligible undergrad amount is $16,000. Eligible post-baccalaureate credential is $16,000, and eligible graduate students is for the master's is $8,000. But the most that anyone can get combined as a master's and as an undergrad is the $16,000. So please keep that in mind. This is something that we check as we award students each term or each semester, just because we want to make sure that we don't pass that. If we pass that amount for any reason, you are no longer in good standing with the U.S. Department of Education, and that's something that we want to limit. So if you guys also have access to this information, you guys can go on to nslds.gov, and you guys are able to log in using your FSA ID, and you can actually check how much balance do I have in loans? How much do I how much have I taken out? What's my limit for Teach? What's my limit for Pell? I think it's a great tool for all of you guys to have just in general as students. So this is information that you can personally see for yourself at nslds.gov. I wanted to go ahead and talk about the Teach Grant initial and subsequent counseling. There is counseling that needs to be done every year, every academic year. So if you plan on applying for the Teach Grant in the fall, you will do this in the fall. And you'll do it every year following. This is something that you have to do along with the Teach Agreement to Serve. So again, what the initial grant and subsequent counseling does is that they pretty much just allow you to give you more information regarding the Teach Grant, how it works as a federal form of aid. And it also lets you know, hey, again, if you don't complete your obligation to serve, this can turn into a loan. So they just kind of want to counsel you guys more, give you guys more information. Then you will go ahead and sign the Teach Grant Agreement to Serve, pretty much saying, I understand that I need to go ahead and complete my obligation. My obligation is to teach at a 4-year institution that serves low-income students in a high-need field within 8 years of finishing my my degree, my credential, my master's, where I received Teach Grant for. This is what the website looks like at studentaid.gov. Again, you will go ahead and log in using your FSA ID, your username and your password. And you'll also add our school to it so that we can make sure that we get that information from the U.S. Department of Education, letting us know that you guys have completed that portion so we can move forward with awarding you Teach Grant. Okay. When you sign the agreement to serve, you're acknowledging to the terms and conditions as well as that obligation. And again, it does turn into a loan if you do not complete your 4 years within the 8 years. Again, I think I kind of jumped forward, but The obligation to serve is to serve as a full-time teacher for 4 years in an elementary or secondary school at a school or educational service agency that serves low-income students, meet all the state certification requirements for teaching, teach in a high-need field. And again, this needs to be completed in the 4 years of teaching within the 8 years after you graduate from or otherwise cease to be enrolled at the institution of higher education where you received your teach grant. If you do not meet these requirements, it does turn into an unsubsidized loan, and you must repay these loans in full with interest charged from the date of each teach grant disbursement. So let's just hypothetically say that you get this teach grant for the 24-25 school year, you come back for the 25-26 school year, and you're like, you know what? I thought I wanted to become a teacher. This is not for me anymore. You will have to start repaying that grant back at that point, and they will go back and add up any interest that's accumulated from the 24-25 school year. So it's really important that you take this grant very serious in the fact that I know that I want to become a teacher and this is the route I'm going to take. So I'm okay with serving this obligation. We've had students in the past who unfortunately have changed their mind as far as career, and it happens. It's understandable. But we just want to make sure that we share this information with you guys so you guys can cross all your T's and dot all your I's before saying this is something that I want to go ahead and receive. What does the process look like here at Cal State Fullerton? The first thing you want to do is you want to complete the Teach Grant application. And this is, of course, after you've already filled out your FAFSA application. This application can be found on the link below on our website under forms, or if you have gotten it emailed to you, they also send you a link to the form. Again, these forms are not available at this moment. Based on our timeline, they should be available within the first week that school starts, just because, again, they're changing the system for the AEM and they're changing all these other items. So they just want to make sure that everything is correct on these applications. But the first step is the Teach Grant application through Cal State Fullerton. The second thing you want to do, even if you've already submitted this Teach Grant, and you guys will see once you guys get the form, before we even go ahead and review your application, before we even go ahead and award you, you must complete your Teach Grant counseling and your agreement to serve. Again, both of these can be done at studentaid.gov. If for some reason you don't get the grant, but you complete step 2 and 3, that's okay. Because as long as you didn't get awarded, right, then they'll just cancel those and they'll say, oh, student never got awarded the Teach Grant. It's okay. So even if you completed the Teach Grant agreement to serve and the counseling, that's okay. I did want to share with you guys that we do run our systems to review any grant applications that are received. We run them every 4 to 6 weeks. Teach Grant is awarded after eligibility is determined, but dispersed after census. So sometimes if you turn in your application, we check it within the 4 to 6 weeks that we run the system, and you'll notice that you're awarded, but nothing's been dispersed. That's because we have to wait till after census. And the reason that is because we want to make sure that you guys are still in that program, right? That you guys haven't dropped out of the program, haven't dropped out of Cal State Fullerton, because again, that does turn into a loan. So we'd hate for that to happen to you guys and you guys are no longer in the program or the classes. So that's why we wait until after census. If for some reason we're reviewing your application and you don't meet the GPA, we will go ahead and email you back. The form of communication that we use is your student email. So please make sure that you're checking it regularly. I know that you guys will be once school starts, especially with assignments and things like that, but just know that is our main form of communication. So if for some reason, again, we're missing something, we're not seeing your Teach Grant counseling on our end, but we see your agreement to serve, we will reach out and say, hey, you're missing this, please go ahead and complete it. And then we'll go ahead and recheck it at that point. These are some examples of how the forms look like. So if you go on our website and you go under forms, you will see the Teach Grant certification form. Right now, it will be available soon. Like I said, our timeline is once school starts, they should be out. You're more than welcome to check in the prior weeks before. They may be out. I just don't want to guarantee you something and you're like, where's the application at? I was told, that it was supposed to be out, a couple weeks before. I know and I can guarantee that they should be out by the time school starts. So again, if you guys want to check a little before, you might be surprised. I can't guarantee anything, but I can guarantee that they will be out by that first week of school. So this is where the forms can be found. Right under the Teach Grant certification, you'll also find the Golden State Teach Grant certification. And then this is what the Teach Grant form looks like. I did want to go over it. I know it's small on the screen. I apologize, but for those of you guys who are joining us today and you are undergrads, there is one more step that you need to complete on the Teach Grant application certification. And the reason why is because most students who get this grant predominantly are masters or credential students because they already know for sure that they are on the road to becoming a teacher. That being said, if you're an undergrad and this is, okay, I do want to go ahead and proceed, I am on the route, we want to make sure that you are on the correct route to become a teacher, the correct pathway to become a teacher. So we have added an additional step for you on the application for our school. You do need to go meet with the College of Education. You need to grab a signature. We just want to confirm and make sure that you met with someone at the College of Education and they directed you and guided you and gave you information on what the pathway is to become a teacher. Again, the reason for that is because we just want to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, that you're going to be able to serve that obligation as a teacher, and we don't want this to become a loan for you. And then right now, I will be turning it over to my colleague, Alexis, to go ahead and go over to the Golden State Teach Grant. Again, this is just an overview. If you have any specific questions for the Golden State Teach Grant, and for some reason we cannot answer it, I will take down your name, your campus-wide ID, and I will get in contact with our Golden State Teach Grant counselor who can provide us with the correct information if we feel like we cannot answer that for you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Hi again, my name is Alexis. I know it's a lot of information and it was thorough information for the Teach Grant. As Anna mentioned, we're going to go now into the Golden State Teacher Grant, which is the kind of like a state version of the Teach Grant, which is similar in its some ways to the federal Teach Grant, but the Golden State Teacher Grant, or GSTG for short, has its little quirks as well where it's different. So it's really important to keep note. Hopefully, the main takeaway for this Golden State Teacher Grant that we want to let you know is one, students who are eligible could receive both the federal Teach Grant and the Golden State Teacher Grant. The reason for this is because the federal Teach Grant is federally funded, whereas the Golden State Teacher Grant is state funded. So students who are eligible, like who apply for FAFSA, they could be considered for both of these grants because they're two different entities and are funded from different federal and state not corporations, but governments. And then secondly, our main point as well is especially for our California Dream Act students, for our CADA or Dream Act students, don't think that we forgot about you. This Golden State Teacher Grant is a great option for our credential students who are Dream Act applicants, whereas Teach Grant is not the option but this Golden State Teacher Grant could be because it's a state-funded award. Next slide. Thank you. So what is Golden State Teacher Grant? The Golden State Teacher Grant is a program that awards up to $20,000 to students currently enrolled in a professional preparation program approved by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing and working towards earning their preliminary teaching credential. So basically what that means is that this grant is for our credential students, so unfortunately it wouldn't be for undergraduates. This award is a non-need-based grant. So basically what it means is that since it's considered like one of the last dollars in, the Golden State Teacher Grant takes into consideration your other awards. And it's a huge chunk of money essentially. And it doesn't go based off of like anything that's put on FAFSA. You just basically are either eligible and you have room in your financial aid awards to fit it in, then they'll get awarded. Something we did want to update you all is that due to budget cuts and due to the just ever-changing world of financial aid in general. The program eligibility, the award sizes, and the service obligation length for new Golden State Teacher Grant recipients who submit their application on or after July 1st of this year, who submitted after that time, there could be some changes on that. So definitely keep an eye out to the California Student Aid Commission or CSAC's website for those updates. And then how Anna mentioned earlier, that our 24, 25 certification forms that are on our office's website will soon be on our website. So just keep a close eye to our website for those updates on when you're able to submit that in. Some of the requirements for the Golden State Teacher Grant is one, as mentioned earlier, is being enrolled in a preliminary teaching credential program. So again, this is only for our credential students. There is a master's program that students could also be eligible that are in that master program, and the dual master/credential program. If Anna mentioned as well, we have the whole list of students who are eligible, and they're always changing because there's always new programs coming into the College of Education. So just go ahead and give us a call or inquire with us like what programs are actually eligible. Secondly is submit a FAFSA or California Dream Act each academic year. So that's another similar point for the Teach Grant is make sure you apply every single year for the either FAFSA or California Dream Act application. You must maintain good academic standing by meeting your satisfactory academic progress. That's a huge thing. That's just one to be considered for any type of financial aid, but this is really important as well for Teach and Golden State Teacher Grant, because if you're not meeting these requirements, then these huge amount of grant money could eventually turn into a loan. So we don't want that to happen for you. Another point is completing your credential program within 6 years from the date of the initial Golden State Teacher Grant payment. And lastly is to commit to work at either a priority school or a California State preschool program for 4 years within 8 years of completing the credential program. And I know it looks a little weird on the slide, but attached is like the link where you're able to go ahead and see the list of schools that are considered a priority school or a CSPP. Basically, what a priority school is that more than 55% of the pupils who are classified as an English learner eligible for a free or reduced price meal or current foster youth. That would be what a priority school is. A CSPP or the California State Preschool Program is a state or federally funded preschool program in California, which also includes tribal and Head Start programs. The fulfilling of the terms of the grants, the service agreement states that the 8-year time frame to complete the 4-year service obligation will begin when any of the followings occur. So as Anna mentioned that there's the requirements for Teach Grant. These are the ones for the Golden State Teacher Grant. So basically the agreement states that if you are no longer meeting SAP, or you don't complete your credential program, you withdraw from the credential program, fail to complete the program and obtain credential within 6 years after the first distribution of the Golden State Teacher Grant funds, then that's when the time the clock basically starts ticking for our students. So hopefully you all meet your requirements and are aware of the terms in order to be considered for this grant and keep the terms of the grant. Upon the 8-year deadline, for every year that the service obligation is not met, students required to pay 25% of the total award amount. So for example, if during your first year of service, if you only do 1 year of service, students have to repay 75% of the awarded amount. If students reach up to 4 years of service, then they've completed their terms and there's no repayment needed and the obligation is complete. And here's a very brief application process of what it kind of looks like when it's processed through our office for the application of itself of the Golden State Teacher Grant. One is, again, submit a FAFSA or a California Dream Act application annually. 2 is create an account and submit a Golden State Teacher Grant application on goldenstateteachergrant.cstac.ca.gov. Again, these funds are administered through the California Student Aid Commission, so there is that part to complete on their end. For this part, for any application, the application deadline for the 24-25 school year is April 1st, 2025. So make sure to get those applications in as soon as possible before the April 1st, 2025 for the Golden State Teacher Grant application. If students receive a Golden State Teacher Grant in a prior year but did not receive the full $20,000, the application will renew if still eligible. So students do not need to submit a new Golden State Teacher Grant application. Third, students need to submit the Golden State Teacher Grant Certification form, that form that we're talking about that will be located on our office website. That will be submitted to us every single year that you're trying to request a Golden State Teacher Grant Award. Forms submitted prior to the semester are starting to be processed after university census. So if you start submitting those, or we haven't submitted them because they're not available yet. But if once they become available before university census, which is about 4 weeks into the semester, we're going to reprocess them after that 4 weeks of the semester. After that 4 weeks of the semester, if students submit those documentations after census, then they're processed within 2 to 3 weeks. The students have to also sign their service agreement. After that, our office processes the Golden State Teacher Grant Certification request form. Then CSAC contacts you, the student, to sign your service agreement online. Finally, after that, our office will request payments from the California Student Aid Commission. CSAC will send us the payment within 6 to 8 weeks, so it is a timely process to our office, and then the funds would be dispersed within 2 weeks of our office receiving the check. And if you have already signed up for direct deposit, then that could be an option as well of how the funds would be sent back to you. So essentially the funds, it could take a few weeks to get back to you, usually just that way you have like a clear mindset of how Golden State Teacher Grants funds are actually released to students. They are usually released by like the end of the semester or towards like the later of the semester. But it's still a great grant that we recommend students to apply for because it's, offers a lot of money for funding, especially for our credential students, where I know you all live and breathe and eat, teaching and your classes 24/7. That's my part for the Golden State Teacher Grant. Again, I know that was a brief overview. We're not the masters of this Golden State Teacher Grant. That's our counselor, but we're more than happy to share information. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Alexis. I really appreciate that. So we want to go ahead and continue with some commonly asked questions that we get regarding the Teach Grant. And there are a couple questions in there regarding the Golden State Teach Grant as well. We got some of these questions from the questions you guys have actually submitted. Again, we couldn't get to all of the questions that you guys asked, but we did narrow it down to the top 8 and the top repetitive 8 that were continuously asked. So do I have to complete my 4 years of obligation service consecutively? So no, you do not. Just within the 8 years after you complete your program or no longer enrolled in the program. Can I get the Teach Grant if I don't qualify for any aid? Yes. When awarding the Teach Grant, as well as the Golden State Teach Grant, we are looking at the requirements that need to be met. We're not looking at what your SAI is. We're not looking at how much money you put on your FAFSA application. No. The reason why the FAFSA application, as well as the CADA, is required for both Teach Grant and Golden State Teach Grant is because they just want to make sure that you guys are all in good standing. Again, good standing with the U.S. Department of Education, which means you guys are not in overpayment, you're not in default, things like that that would hinder you from getting any aid from both federal and state. Question 3, can I get the Teach Grant and the Golden State Teach Grant at the same time? Yes, as long as there is room in your cost of attendance, you can. So just something to keep in mind when you are applying for both. You can, as long as there's room in there. When does Teach Grant get posted and when does it disperse? Teach Grant gets posted every 4 to 6 weeks. Once your application is submitted, it will get dispersed after census. Question 5, if I'm entering my second year, which year should I apply for the Teacher's Grant? You can apply at any time, but we recommend in the fall so you can be eligible for the full academic year, but please keep in mind the aggregate limit amounts. Another thing I wanted to add to that too is sometimes when we're looking at a student's GPA, for example, let's just say you are coming in, you were with this freshman year, right? and you are barely learning about the Teach Grant. And so now you're in your second year and you're applying, we will be looking at the GPA that you had if you went to school with us. We'll look at the spring, the prior semester GPA. If you were not with us, then we will go ahead and reach out and try and get your transcripts from the school that you were coming from or where you were previously at. If you're an undergrad and this is your first time getting the Teach Grant, we will request high school transcripts and we'll look at that GPA. So it's kind of something to keep in mind. The other thing I wanted to add to that is I always recommend that you apply in the fall, because if for some reason you're not eligible meeting the GPA requirement by us looking at the spring transcript, 75 percentile, whatever the case may be, I go back after each term. So the beginning of the next term, I will rerun that list and I will look at your GPA for the fall. And if in the fall you meet that academic qualification and you meet the rest of the requirements, I will then award you for the spring. So it's not a grant that I want you guys to get discouraged, like, oh my gosh, she reviewed it in the fall. That's it. I'm done. I can't get it in the spring. No, 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 no. I will rerun that same list. I will look at the applications again in the spring term, and I will go ahead and see what your GPA was in the fall. And if it now meets it, then I will go ahead and award it for the spring. So just kind of something I wanted to add to that. Question 6, can I get the Teach Grant if I don't qualify for any? Yes, I think we already covered that. Sorry. What is the difference between the Teach Grant and the Golden State Teach Grant? The difference is that the Teach Grant is a federal grant and the Golden State Teach Grant is a state grant. So the eligibility and the requirements are similar, but each have their own. For example, the Teach Grant is available for residents and eligible as students who meet the FSA FAFSA guidelines. And it's also available for undergrads, post-baccalaureate, masters, whereas the Golden State Teach Grant, it's offered to both FAFSA eligibility students, but also to Arcata students, which I think is great. You know, it's a good way to get some aid out there to our dreamers and to all Arcata applicants. But again, each one of them has their own requirements. The Golden State Teach Grant, if you're an undergrad, you're not eligible for that. So those are a couple of differences that we want you guys to know. Again, you guys can always do your own reading at studentaid.gov for the Teach Grant, at CSAC for the Golden State Teach Grant. And then question 8, are incoming transfer students for the fall 2024 school year eligible to apply for these grants right away? If so, when can we apply for these grants? Yes, as long as you meet all the requirements, as well as being in a Teach Eligible Grant program, you can begin to enroll prior to the start of the semester, but will not begin to review them until I would say September. So again, be on the lookout for those forms in the first week of August, and then we can start reviewing those most likely sometime in September. And then here is our financial aid contact. If you have any questions regarding the Teach Grant, the Golden State Teach Grant, anything regarding maybe perhaps why was I awarded this and not that, you know, just general questions about your financial aid, this is our contact information you guys can call. I always want to call this a QRV code, but it's not. I forgot what the code is called, but it will take you to our website. So if you guys would like to scan it, you guys can do so now. Just in case you guys have any questions, if you guys have any Teach Grant questions, please feel free to go ahead and get in contact with us. I'll leave this up in the meantime. I know we have some questions in the chat. Definitely. I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen just so I can go ahead and read those questions really quick. And then I know there's a couple questions.
Hi, Anna. General ed teachers qualify for the Teach Grant, that specific position?
So it has to be a high need field. If you are meeting that high need field criteria, then yes, you can go ahead and get the Teach Grant. I'm assuming no one knows, you know, like, hey, when I leave, you know, I'm going to teach this subject, or for sure I'm going to get it in that subject. Again, you want to make sure that it's considered a high need when you go ahead and sign your agreement to serve and you're ready to go ahead and move forward with your service of obligation.
Thank you, Anna. And then, oh, sorry, Amir.
No, you're fine. It looks like Eric clarified his question after raising his
Oh,
hand. So he gave a scenario of I'm a second semester student in the multiple subject credential program finishing in December. Congratulations to you. If we apply for the Golden State Teach Grant, are we limited to job opportunities in teaching? Do you find teachers having a hard time finding full-time teaching positions at low income or Title I schools?
okay. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the first question. If we apply for the Golden Grant, are we limited to job opportunities in teaching? Um, I think that's more some research that needs to be done as far as like, on your end, like who's hiring and things like that. But in my experience, I've never had someone come back to me and say, I can't find a job in teaching. I can't find a job in this field. If anything, the one thing that students do come back and they are scared of is because they decide to change their mind. So like I said, I can't guarantee that you guys are all going to get hired, at low income schools. That is why this Teach Grant is so important for you guys to kind of take the lead on it and make sure that you guys are doing research before getting hired at these schools. So again, in my experience with awarding the Teach Grant, I've never had students come and tell me, hey, I'm not getting a job, I'm not getting hired here, those type of situations. Again, it's been mostly, hey, I changed my mind, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. What do I do next? That's what I've had in my experience. I hope that helps, Eric.
And then there was one, thank you, Anna, for that. There was another question before by Gabriel. What if students get hired for a long-term substitute position? Would that fulfill any of the 4 year of work requirements? I know you touched upon that because it's like high need. So, but yeah,
That's a
uh,
great question because I've never had someone be a substitute teacher for long term and see if that can get counted. Joseph, if you can please share your campus-wide ID personally with Alexis in the chat. I think that's a question that not don't share your campus-wide ID with everyone, but individually message Alexis so that we can get your campus-wide ID. I think that's a great question. And I think that's something that I'm going to go ahead and have to ask the U.S. Department of Education. Some of you guys may or may not know, but as worldwide, we have Google. In financial aid, we have something that's called Ask Regs. So that's our Google of financial aid. So that's definitely a great question and information that I would love to know. I've never been in that position or I've never even been asked that question. So I really appreciate you asking that question. So we'll take your campus-wide ID. We will go ahead and find that answer for you regarding that question. That's a great one. I'm excited to know now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for answering that. Anyone else, if you have any questions, please feel free to add those in the chat and Alexis and Anna will answer them for you. Once again, I think someone asked this session that's recorded will be sent to all of those that registered and it will be posted on the College of Education YouTube webpage as well. So I just wanted to add that and we still have time for more questions. So continue to add those in the chat. And if you feel like you would like to be unmuted, please let us know as well. Thank you.
Yes. I'm going back in and trying to go back, but as you guys ask questions, it kind of gets I get thrown back. Gabriel asked, what if you get hired for a long-term oh, we already did that one. That was a good one.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
Ashley had a
Okay.
question.
Sorry, I'm a little lost. Oh yeah. Yes, you guys are able to use your Teach Grant in the summer for summer courses. There's no requirement as to do I have to be enrolled in 6 units or anything like that? No. I actually every summer, right when it starts, again, we don't award until after census. We don't post until after census because not everyone qualifies for Teach Grant in the summer. And the reason I say that is because remember, for the year, you're only allowed 3,772. So if you are full-time in the fall and full-time in spring, that means you don't have any leftover room for summer. But If you were, I don't know, 3/4 in the fall, halftime in spring, then you do have some eligibility still left. I call students right before census and I ask them, is this something that you guys want me to go ahead and apply to your summer? If you say yes, I will go ahead and post it. We'll go ahead and disperse after census. So yes, you can use your Teach Grant for summer as long as you have room for it. So yes, you can. And then Eddie is asking if we will be emailing these slides. Yes, we will. Again, there are links on there that you guys can go ahead and look at it and kind of and get some research on. I think I don't think there's any more questions. That's unless I am mistaken.
No, we have one from Jennifer. She said, if I
Okay.
become a third grade teacher when I finish the credential program at a Title I school, that will not be considered a high need field like multiple subject. So the Golden State Cheese Grant will turn into a loan. So scenario question.
So what she's asking is pretty much if I'm going to be a third grade teacher, but not in a high need field, it gets converted into a loan. That's correct. It has to be a high need field when you get the Teach Grant or you sign your agreement to serve. So sometimes high need fields do come on and off the list, but that's fine. As long as when you signed it was a high need field, they'll still take that into consideration. And then I do see Cynthia, I'm about to enroll for fall classes next week. I'm a graduate credential student. Do I accept a loan that has been offered to me? That's the only financial aid I am receiving. It's definitely up to you. We cannot advise students to go ahead and accept or decline their loans. I do suggest that when students are having, they're indecisive as to what to do. Do I accept loans, things like that are in the grad program? I will start with the Teach Grant will not cover you 100%. So you may still have a balance after the Teach Grant is awarded to you. How you decide to cover that balance is up to you. I always suggest that you visit the Student Business Service webpage. They have an amazing chart. It's so simple. I love it. I always refer to it. I think I just actually shared this with Amir last week. It's very easy to read. It gives you guys your exact what's my tuition and what are my fees. Again, this doesn't include if you're staying on campus, things like that. It's just pretty much telling you what your staple tuition and fees are. At that point, I do suggest that you look at that, see what they're charging you for, what your tuition is, what the fees are, and then refer back to what's being offered to you. If I accept this, will it cover me for both for fall and spring? Remember that when you guys are looking at your estimated award letters, the amounts that are being shown are cut in half. So even when I'm awarding you for your teach, I'm assuming that you're going to keep up with the requirements, right? So I will award you for the academic year. That's when I go back during census and make sure, is a student in half-time, full-time? Do I need to adjust these amounts at that point? Teach Grant is all manual, so I will manually disperse. That's why it's so important, that's why we wait till after census to go ahead and do that, because that's what we pay off of. So remember, everything is cut in half, and everything that you guys see on your estimated award letters, we're assuming that you are staying all full time. So it's something to take into consideration when looking at that. Right now, the Teach Grant has not been affected by the state budget cuts, but the Golden State Teach Grant has been affected. We currently have an estimated amount in the state of California for $50 million worth of aid for the 24-25 school year. Due to budget cuts, we are expecting that will be completed, that 50 million, by fall. So that being said, as soon as that form is available to you guys, I do recommend that you guys go and apply for it, because funding is expected to be exhausted for the Golden State Teach Grant by the end of the fall, based on the amount that the state has provided for the entire school system of California. The question is, Elementary teachers who work at low income or Title I schools are not considered to be a high need field. So there's two different things going on here. You need to teach at a school that for the teach grant, you need to teach at a school, right? That is dealing with low income students. And then you have to teach in a high need field on top of that. So let's say you're at a low income school and then you're teaching science and then you serve your 4 years, you're good. But let's just say, I don't know, you're not at a low income serving school, and then you're teaching not a high need field, then that doesn't count as your service of obligation. That's why they also give you guys those 8 years. Maybe you want to get your foot in the door, and just be at school. But they do give you guys 8 years to go ahead and meet that requirement. And then Ashley for the Teach Grant. Yeah, I'm sorry, Erica. It can be a bit confusing, especially because we talked about the Golden State Teach Grant and the Teach Grant, where they're both very similar because they both have an obligation, but the requirements are different for both. Again, you guys, if you guys feel like, you know what, I want to get more information about this. If you want more information about the Teach Grant, you want to go to studentaid.gov. If you want more information regarding the Golden State Teach Grant, you want to go to CSAC.gov. So two different Teach Grant is federal, CSAC is state. So they're coming from two different banks, if you will, two different banks. Yes, of course, anytime. For the Teach Grant, can I do X amount of years in California and the rest in another? Does it have to be done in one state? No, you can do them in different states, but just remember what one high need field is considered in California may not be the same high need field in Wyoming, Virginia, Texas. That's a good thing about the Teach Grant is that because it's a federal aid, you can go to any state and get your obligation served. But remember, it has to be in a low income school in a high need field. So before you move over to that state or decide you want to teach there, it's important to make sure that you're going on that website and looking, hey, does this count as a high need field for the state of Texas, for the state of Wyoming, for the state of Virginia, whatever state you're moving to. So no, it does not have to be all in one state. Just make sure that you're reviewing and looking at those requirements.
Looks like Alexis also added
Yes.
the links that you were referring to, Anna.
Perfect. Yes.
We still have room for more questions. If there's anything that you all still have questions about, a lot has been addressed. Once again, this webinar will be sent to all those that have registered, and we will be posted on the YouTube page. And it looks like we have a question from Beatrice.
Yes, so great question, Beatriz. The question is, I have a question. I'm a returning student and have never applied for financial aid loans or school grants. Am I too late to apply for any grants for this fall semester? Now, if you're referring to your FAFSA application, that's how we determine eligibility for all students on campus. I have heard this multiple times where I have students come into the office saying, I've never been offered Pell Grant. I've never been offered X, Y, and Z, so I don't even bother with the FAFSA application. And I always tell students, why? Why? There's so much more aid that's out there for students who may not fit the Pell Grant bill, but they may fit the middle class scholarship, or they may fit the state university grant requirement. So we always encourage all students to apply for their FAFSA application. In regards to going back and paying you for the previous years you were here, we cannot do that. But moving forward, it's not too late to do your FAFSA application. Just know that because you're doing it after the priority date, which this year was May 2nd, because you're doing it after that, you may no longer be eligible for some state aid that has deadline or priority requirements. So that's something for all students to keep in mind. Even if you think you may not qualify for something, whatever the case may be, still do it. You never know. You're not going to lose anything by doing the application, right? If anything, it might become a positive and you might get some aid. So as far as the Teach Grant, Beatriz, when you do your FAFSA application, that doesn't mean we're automatically going to see, oh, is Beatriz, does she qualify for the Teach Grant? That's a separate application form that needs to be done. That form can be found under our Forms and Appeals tab on our website, as well as the Golden State Teach Grant. There's another question. Yes, of course. I'm going to a credential program and I'm undergraduate. I have not taken any courses for a while. Yes, that's a great question. For a while, how does my GPA count? Which semester is considered? So again, I look at the prior one. Sometimes I know it's been a while. I'm going back to school, if I'm being honest. It's been a while. I haven't been to school since I want to say 2011. I'm not trying to age myself, but we're just going to leave that there. So I definitely understand how GPA maybe, it's not the same, or maybe you're in a different mindset, different time frame, you're a lot more focused. And unfortunately, the GPA that we do need to use is the prior one. So in your case, whoever's asking this question, let's just say if you're still an undergrad, it seems as though you may not have completed a full semester here and you're just entering with us at Cal State Fullerton. If you're at a community college prior to this, even if it was 5 years ago, that's the GPA I will look at. I will look at your most current recent term that was completed and look at that GPA. If that GPA doesn't work out, and we look at that and review it and we say, you know what, this GPA is not cutting it, it doesn't meet the requirement, then I will go ahead and ask at that point, do you have an ACT, GRE, any of those admissions tests that I can look at in any subject, and did you score 75%? If that still doesn't work, then what we will do is, again, I will hold on to your application. If I see that you do not qualify, for the fall, that doesn't mean, again, that you may not qualify for the spring. I will look at your fall GPA and award you for spring at that point. So don't get discouraged that maybe right now you may not qualify. Again, I hold on to all the applications. I have a running list of all the students who have applied, and I go back and recheck your eligibility for spring as well. So I hope that the GPA doesn't discourage you, and I really hope that you still apply so that we can go ahead and see how we can help you and get you some grant money.
Awesome. I think that's the only question that if we forgot to answer your question, I'm so sorry. Feel free to, I think we still have time. But from my knowledge, I think these are all the questions we've already answered.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Alexis. If anyone has any more questions, definitely add that. We still have some time. If not, we will be closing this webinar, this live webinar. Once again, if you don't have any questions, we will definitely be having the registrants and the participants with us today. They will receive the recording, and it will be posted on the College of Education's YouTube page. There are other financial aid webinars that were done earlier in the year, so we do welcome you to those as well, and I will add that to the chat as well. But in the meantime, we want to say thank you for joining us this afternoon and taking time out of your busy schedules to receive some very valuable information that we feel will be helpful for our students as they continue in our programs, are starting our programs. And once again, I just want to say thank you to Ana Segura and also Alexis Rodriguez for joining us and providing this wonderful information. I love the presentation, and it kind of had a theme of teaching. Teachers in the elementary classroom or in the middle school classroom setting. So I appreciate that. But once again, my name is Amir Wood, Student Success and Community Engagement Specialist for the College of Education. You can reach me at any time at aawoods@fullerton.edu. And we thank you once again, and take care, and go Titans.
Yes. Enjoy the rest of your summer, everyone. Whatever's left of it.
Yes.
Bye all. Thank you. Take care of
Bye.
yourselves. We're rooting for
Thank you.
you. Bye.